welcome back to another chapter of Garden Wise Adventures. And if you've been watching my videos recently, you'll know that we've been talking a little bit about edibles in the landscape. So today I would like to introduce you to a beautiful woman who I adore, Lyne Mott. She is a fantastic artist, and I will link some information below on her artwork. But today we want to talk about how you've taken your artistry to your front yard and use mostly edibles.
You bet. You bet.
Yeah.
Yay, I'm happy to show off.
So tell me a little bit more about yourself so people know who you are, and then
why
you decided to use so many edibles in your landscape.
In the garden. Well, I love the idea of the marriage of form and function. You know, that something can be beautiful, but also practical, pragmatic, useful. Why not have both? Especially when it comes to something that is as visible as gardening. We were talking a bit about how gardening is a service. Other people enjoy it as much as you do. Especially when it comes to the front yard, I try to keep things pretty and trimmed and cultivated as well as edible.
I love that form and function. Yeah. So let's turn the camera around and kind of give us a tour of what you've done and show us how you've used the edibles in your landscape.
We're just in the front yard, driveway and so forth here. Yeah. And on this side of the house, I just went with an orchard. So apples and pears and a goldenrod nectarine here. And again, I try to keep them nicely trimmed more or less, not let them go too wild because they are right here in the front yard. Now as we approach the front here, you'll see right off that I have the fun grapevine growing over the arbor. That came about as a matter of convenience, not genius.
I think it's genius and it's gorgeous.
Oh, yay, I'm glad you think so. I had a apricot tree there that died, and I went through the stages of grief, denial.
Yes.
Every gets weird. As
yes,
we
lose your baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But then finally just realized I had to take it out. But then this came to me. Oh, this is an opportunity to have a gazebo, which I've always liked the idea of. And then instead of just growing a rose on it, which would be lovely, edible. Go with the grapes there. And it's one vine, but it's a real happy there.
You can see it's producing quite well too.
Yes, a good year for grapes, a good weather pattern for grapes this year. Now, probably in the front yard, I probably have about 70-30 edible versus ornamental. But like all of these plants in front here and these first two berms, they're all herbs. So comfrey, oregano, sage. Oh, and I like how pretty the purple opal sage can be next to the tricolor sage.
Sage is one of my favorite edible landscape plants.
Oh, is that right?
They are absolutely gorgeous. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're usable and they're beautiful and they're easy to take care of.
Yeah, they seem to do well even in problem spots that are really dry and so forth. Yeah, a lemon balm. Now you can see as we go up, I also have a lot of cabbages. So, there's some edible annuals that I like to put in front here. And I often do cabbages and go back and forth between the pretty ruby red cabbages and the Savoy cabbages that always look like Peter Rabbit.
Well, look at these down here. So have you had an issue with using them as landscape plants?
Not really. Sometimes, I'm sure as you know, they have different water needs.
Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes I'll need to hand water a spot or two. But overall, they seem to do all right. And I'm just grateful to get what I can get, when it comes to the edibles and
yes.
In back, I focus a little more on absolute production. But in front, I'm content to just have some kale, both the
look how gorgeous that
curl
kale is.
Isn't it doing well this year? So robust. So this is the two kinds of kale. Is this just the curly leaf kale and the red Russian?
Yeah.
I think is what's there. And you can see how I've even let it go to seed, even though
it brings in the pollinators and
Yeah, exactly. Now this is a nectarine that I've grown right next to the house in kind of a fan shape. So it creates a nice privacy shield for the house. And then of course the grape growing up to the second story and shading off the upper porch is a great advantage.
I think that's a beautiful idea. I love that.
You bet. Well, and an apricot here that's liking the spot here. And
Yep.
of course, the awesome opportunity to do kind of a natural fence of the espalier. Is
Oh,
that
I
how
love
you
that.
pronounce it,
Espalier.
Lily?
Yeah, I don't pronounce it properly either. So.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we're both pronouncing our own way, tomato, tomato. But yeah, I've really enjoyed kind of working with that over the years. And
Yeah, that is beautiful.
grow up is the a good message for people and plants.
Yes, we all
Down
need to
here.
grow up.
Now on this side are black currants, and they've done particularly well this year. Fruited really beautifully, and black currants are almost medicinal with how antioxidant.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And on this side is
Wow, look at your goji berry.
berries. You bet. They're kind of past their prime here. They have a little bit of a first flush and then die back and then a second flush. They're interesting that way.
So when is their second flush?
Oh, I find it tends to be later in the year. In fact, some years, depending on the weather, of course, I'm harvesting gojis until like Thanksgiving.
Really?
Yeah, they're real impressive.
So they seem to do really well here in Utah then.
This variety does,
Yeah.
at least, yeah.
It's
And you
just-
can see how we've trained it up and over the trellis there.
Yeah.
And it's very productive. In fact, every year I cannot harvest all of it. So I kind of need to bring a box of tissues out with me and just lament.
Lament, yeah.
But because we're only on a quarter acre here, but I want to get as much production as possible, we've gone very vertical, you can imagine.
Yes.
So that's where the idea for the trellises have come. So here's another nice grape here. But I just found these manufactured iron trellises. So you can see the tomatoes are really happy growing on
Yeah.
them, and every year we'll grow different things. And I always love how by the end of the year, these two plants will touch, and the tomatoes will hang down like Christmas ornaments.
Oh,
and
I
think
love
that's
it.
so fun.
So for people who are living here in Utah, especially in Utah County, where did you find that?
Oh, Lynde Nursery was where I found these. I've also seen them at Sun River Gardens.
Oh, perfect. Okay, love
You
it.
bet. So you can see in the pots a lot of herbs here. You were asking about this one the other day. And
Yeah,
it
it's a
is
Shiso, isn't it?
A Shiso. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
that's a
exactly right.
beautiful variety of shiso. I hadn't seen that color before.
Oh, is that
It's-
right? The real
Yeah.
neat underside?
Yeah, showing the undersides
Isn't
here.
that pretty?
I don't know if you could see that.
So mostly
But-
used in stir fries
Yeah.
and so forth is what you were telling
So
me.
that's another example of an absolutely gorgeous plant that's
Yes.
useful.
That's a marriage of form and function.
Yes, I love it.
Is what we're always about here. Come on back here and I'll just show you
Okay.
the kind of last part here. Of course, cucumbers and...
Going up your trellis again, just like,
Yeah, they've just been real useful, these iron trellises. Had them for maybe a decade now, and they just are real useful. Of course, we have beets and so forth, but usually what I do up here, you can see the raspberries up on top, and then the 3 different kinds of mint in the pot. But usually I do winter squash up here. This year I happen to do summer squash. But the winter squash will kind of cascade down over the rocks,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I think is kind of a fun mystique.
yes.
This is kind of my green sperm, which has kind of been grown and harvested by now. So the soil is resting.
Yeah. It's resting. Yes.
You bet. Here's the
Which is
pretty,
actually important. Yes.
yes, certainly. Here's the pretty, I think it might be called purple opal basil.
Yeah, that
doing
is
real well.
another gorgeous one I love to use in landscapes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so spicy smelling, isn't it?
I can smell it. Oh, I love it.
And here's more beets and now back here, if you dare pass the man-eating figs here,
Oh, yes. I love your figs.
just a last detail here is in the back. This is a problematic area because of the fibrous roots of the pine trees.
Yeah.
So over the years, we've discovered that things don't grow awfully well back here. So I finally went for the mint because
Yes.
every
Let go
gardener-
and went for the mint.
I realize you're not supposed to plant mint in the ground,
But look at
with
how well it's
much-
doing over there.
It's its first year and it's doing well. And I actually need something that has a real strong root system, which
Yeah.
mint does, to be happy back here. And then these big bushes that you see here, they're all elderberries. And they're not quite thriving this year. They've done better in years past. but I
Yeah.
do harvest them and make syrup and so forth with them. And then the 3 different kinds of thyme in the pots. And
That is really
so
cute.
forth.
I love that.
So that's basically the rundown.
Perfect. So give me a tip. What is
Sure.
the best tip you can think of for people who want to grow edibles in their landscape? Yeah, what
integrate.
helps with the success in that?
Oh, you bet. Well, I suppose research. You know,
I like
research in the form of both book learning, but also experiential learning.
So experiment.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid to
right.
experiment. I love that.
Right, and just try something new every year. It's amazing, isn't it? As gardeners,
Yes.
we find out over time things that we thought wouldn't do well do great, and things that we
Yeah.
thought would don't at all. So the 3 rules of gardening are courage, 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 right?
Yes.
So
And then one last thing. I just wanted to show everybody your girls
oh
up
dear.
there. Yes. As I said, Lynde is an artist, and so everything is artistic, and I think her place is just gorgeous.
No surface is safe. It's
Yeah.
and the fertilizer sign felt like it wanted to be on the chicken coop. It just felt like
Yes.
the right thing to do. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for
My
the
pleasure.
tour. I think your landscape is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thank you, Lily. It means a lot to me coming from you.
Well, I love your landscape. Okay, so everybody, thank you to Lynde, and once again, have another wonderful garden adventure.